Gretchen Groundhog, It's Your Day by Abby Levine. It was a dark and snowy night. Gretchen Groundhog sat in her burrow worrying. In a few days, it would be February 2nd, when the world would be watching the town of Piccadilly. On that day, for the very first time, Gretchen would step from her burrow to stand before TV cameras and newspaper reporters, tourists, and all the town folks, and a brass band. Everyone would be waiting for Gretchen and her shadow. For as long as she could remember, it had been Great Uncle Gus who searched for his shadow before an anxious crowd. If he saw it, there would be a roar of disappointment, for this meant that winter would last for 6 more dreary months. The band would play slow, sad music, and Gus would trudge back to his burrow. If there was no shadow, the band would play a lively tune, and everyone would hug and cheer. Spring was around the corner. But now, Great Uncle Gus was just too old. It was up to Gretchen, his only relative, to carry on. "I can't do this," Gretchen said. "I'm too shy. I can't stand there with everyone looking at me. I just can't do it." "Yes, you can," said Great Uncle Gus. "The first time is always the hardest." But Gretchen knew she could not go out. "Gretchen's not going out!" The news flashed through Piccadilly. What will we do? The town folks asked each other. On January 30th, there was a story about Gretchen on the front page of the newspaper. The headline said, There has always been a Groundhog Day in Piccadilly, but this year it seems Gretchen Groundhog will not go out. How will we plan if we do not know when winter will end? The town folks stopped Gretchen on the street. They prepped her with questions. "Should we buy more salt or put it on the icy roads?" asked the mayor. A father asked, "Shall I chop more wood for my family?" "When can the bears stop hibernating?" asked the little boy. "Please," everyone begged. "Please, dear Gretchen, go out on Groundhog Day. Tell us when winter will end." But Gretchen only shook her head. On January the 31st, Gretchen lit a cheery fire, but it did not help her mood. All day the doorbell chimed, the phone rang, emails interrupted. The urgent letters plopped through the mail slot. Gretchen felt terrible. It seemed like the longest day of her life. On February the 1st, the town was up in an uproar. Tourists filled the motels. In front of Gretchen's burrow, carpenters were building wooden stands for the crowd, and a TV crew had arrived, and the band was practicing. Good Groundhog Day was only hours away. "Piccadilly panicked," read the Post. "Soon the eyes of the world will be on us. What will happen if Gretchen does not go out?" Knock, knock, knock. 3 townsfolk were waiting when Gretchen opened her door. "You must try," Gretchen said to the town historian. "There has always been a Groundhog Day in Piccadilly." Do, Gretchen. I'll stand beside you," said the chief of police. "I'll make you famous," said the editor of the Post. But Gretchen only shook her head. All afternoon and evening, visitors came. "Knock, knock, knock. Gretchen, are you there? Knock, knock, knock. Gretchen." That night, weary and sad, Gretchen fell asleep in her rocking chair, but she heard the townsfolk even in her dreams. "Knock, knock, knock. Please, Gretchen, open the door." Gretchen awoke, but the knocking did not stop. She hurried to the door and looked out the peephole. There on the moonlit snow stood a little girl. It was Hester, the town historian's daughter. "May I come in?" Hester asked. Gretchen opened the door. She helped Hester take off her coat, her soggy mittens and wet boots, and her muffler. "I won't stay long," Hester said. I wanted you to see these. I found them while I was helping my mother." She held out a wooden box with some yellowed pieces of paper in it. Gretchen could see that there had only been old-fashioned handwriting on them. "What's this?" Gretchen asked. "Records from our town's history," Hester explained. While Great Uncle Gus made cups of steaming hot cocoa, Gretchen studied the first piece of paper. "Tomorrow I must go out," it read, "to stand before the Pilgrims and the Indians. I am greatly afeared." It was signed Goody Groundhog. Gretchen was amazed. Goody Groundhog had lived a long, long time ago. She came to America on the Mayflower, before there was a Piccadilly. "My mother said that Goody told everyone the second winter would be better than the first," she said, and they were glad. Gretchen leafed through the papers. "Here's one by George Groundhog at Valley Forge," she exclaimed. "He says, 'I am affrighted to go out, but I shall. The winter has been long and hard. The soldiers must know what will be.' My mother says that George told them the winter would go on a long time," said Hester, and everyone was very sad. As Gretchen read through the paper, she became more and more excited. There was a page from brave General Grant Groundhog, who had fought in the Civil War, and Jean Groundhog, a tough cowboy, and Gloria Groundhog, who became a movie star. "They were all afraid to grow out," Gretchen said. She read the last piece of paper. "I am scared, but tomorrow I will try to go out," it said. It was signed Gus Groundhog. "You?" said Gretchen to Uncle Gus. Her great Uncle Gus looked surprised when a dreamy look came into his eyes. "It was so long ago I had forgotten it," he said. "Now I remember. I couldn't eat or sleep the night before." "Well, what happened then?" asked Gretchen. "My great-great-uncle Grover helped me," said Gus. "He said, 'You can do it, Gus. The first time is always the hardest.'" The clock began to chime. 9, 10, 11, 12. They counted together. "Oh my gosh, I've got to go," Hester said. "I've never stayed up so late." "Thank you for everything, Hester," Gretchen said. She and Hester gave each other a great big hug. Gretchen went to bed and lay quietly in the darkness. She thought about the next morning, about all the townsfolk that had gathered, about the TV cameras and all the crowds, the blaring of the band. She turned on the light, wrote a few lines on a piece of paper, and put it in the history box. Then she closed her eyes and fell asleep. Gretchen's dreams were peaceful. She was awoken by the sound of voices and the squeaks of the band tuning up. She put on her coat and muffler, her boots and her mittens. She took a deep breath. "You can do it," she whispered to herself. Then Gretchen Groundhog flung open the door and stepped out into the February morning. The post read, "Piccadilly pleased and proud. Gretchen goes out." The end.